Hey guys, welcome to Mr. Smith's Kitchen. Brian, Mr. Smith, as always, kitchen. Today I thought we would make something kind of cool, unique, something I've never made before. And we're going to use what is my mother-in-law's recipe for this. We're making whoopie pies. I had been asked to make them, and I thought, why not? Never made them before, but it sounds pretty straightforward. If you don't know what a whoopie pie is, it's basically two little pieces of cake with some cream in the middle. And you keep them refrigerated. They're really good. Like I said, I've never made them, and I haven't had one in probably close to 30 years. But we're going to try it. And I got the recipe from two different places. From this wonderful cookbook here. My mother-in-law, quite some years ago, did up a cookbook. And it's got some really neat recipes in it. Although some of the recipes in here are a little challenging to follow the way they're written, because she wrote them when they were published, much like the handwritten one I have in the dining room. They were written so the person who makes them can understand it. A lot of my recipes are like that, especially my older recipes, before I realized I was writing them so I could understand them. But if somebody else took them, it might be a little challenging for them to read my mind, so to speak. So I started writing mine a little different so they were a little easier for anybody to understand, which is something a lot of people just don't ever think about. And if, you know, back in when this was probably written, when the red velvet cake I showed you last week, when those recipes were written, you still taught the next generation how to make these things. So they kind of knew. That's just how much times have changed. But that being said, these are chocolate whoopie pies with a white cream filling in them. And I think they're going to be fun to make, and we're going to get to learn a few things, because I really don't know how big for sure to scoop these to do. The time on the oven is a little broad, and the way it goes together, I can see it in my head only because I've made a few cakes, so hopefully we get it right. That being said, let me get you down here to the counter. If you are new to my channel, welcome. We do have a couple new subscribers. Welcome. I'm glad you joined our neighborhood. If you're returning, thank you. Either way, thank you. Subscribe button down below, somewhere down there. I can never remember. I think it's over here. Notification bell right next to that. That way you know when my videos come out. You know, subscribing is awesome. That helps grow our neighborhood. Thumbs up, thumbs down. As always, do two things for us. A, it lets me know if you liked the video, didn't like the video. It's good either way. But it also puts us out there in other people's feeds so our community can continue to grow. Comments, always welcome. Just be nice. We don't have to agree. You can tell me it's a horrible recipe, and that's okay. Just be polite the way you put it. We've got a multitude of age groups, you know, ethnicities, and we don't want to offend anybody. That's not being a good neighbor, right? So be polite. Anyhow, let me get you down to the counter, and we will see what we got going on, what we need, what I think we'll need, stuff like that. And we'll start making these. I'll give you the ingredients in grams and cups, teaspoons. That way, either way you go, you can be precise. You can, if you don't have a scale, you can use the cups and tablespoons, teaspoons, and stuff like that. All right, hold on for me 1 second. All right, down here at the counter. So now, before we get started, I do want to note, I did get a little ahead of myself before I started filming and started putting some things together, but I'll tell you what I did as we go. As far as things you will need, mixer, whether it's a hand mixer or a stand mixer, you will need a mixer. Well, I mean, you might be able to do this without it, but it'll make life easier if you have either or. And if you don't have a mixer, just get a hand mixer. They're not expensive. Next thing, I preach this every video, scale. Scales are really important, especially if you enjoy baking and you want to try, you know, different things, because some things you got to have a scale, or you might find a recipe that's just in grams or ounces or, you know, whatever, and not always cups. You will need a baking sheet, which you can see the corner of right here. I got mine lined with parchment paper. And that's really it, other than maybe a couple, 2-3 spatulas. Spatulas are important because we're going to scrape down the sides of our bowls, things like that. So spatulas as always. All right, so let's get started making this. The first thing I did was combine the dry ingredients, which I already did. I have them in a bowl right here, and I apologize for that. But our dry ingredients in this bowl are as follows. I have 4.5 cups, or, oh, I had this memorized, 540 grams of flour, 4.5 cups, 540 grams of flour. And to that, I added 2 teaspoons of baking soda, which is 8 grams, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, which is 4 grams, a half a teaspoon or 2 grams of salt. All right, and then I sifted all that through. All right, with my sifter. That way, you've got a nice texture to the flour, no clumps, no lumps. It just makes the flour so much nicer. And the recipe calls for it. So I sifted it all together. Now I'm just going to set that aside. Now we're going to work on our wet ingredients. All right, so in our mixer, first thing we're going to put in here is going to be, yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to put in here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and first thing we're going to do is put our Crisco in, and to that we're going to add our sugar, and we're going to add it 1 cup, or I don't remember what the grams are on it. 1 cup or 230 grams of Crisco to our mixer. Sorry, my brain just paused. And then to that, as I find a place to sit this. Now, if I didn't mention before, put your oven on 350 degrees. So that way we get it going. You're about to hear mine go off right now. All right. But to our shortening, 1 cup of shortening. I'm using Crisco. If you don't use Crisco, that's fine. You can use whatever brand you want. I am going to put total of 2 cups of sugar in it. Now, it's 1 cup brown sugar at 220 grams, and then underneath this is 1 cup of white granulated sugar at 200 grams. Like I said, I started mixing stuff together before I thought, you know what, I'd really like to show you guys this. So, even though you can't see it, underneath this large layer of brown sugar is a layer of white granulated sugar. 220 grams brown sugar, 200 grams white sugar. And we're just going to pour that in there. And then we're going to let this run until, much like any other cake we use with the butter and stuff, until it's light, fluffy, you know, kind of looks like mashed potatoes. All right, so I'm going to get this started, and when I get done with it, we'll move on to the next step. Okay, we got those two mixed well. And I was kind of wrong about the mashed potato look, kind of, but there's what we want to look like there. And it does look like stiff mashed potatoes. To this, we're going to add 2 large eggs and 2 large egg yolks. Okay? Now, when you separate your egg whites from your yolks, don't throw away the egg whites. We're going to need those for the whipping cream that goes, you know, the icing that goes in between them. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put these in one at a time until they disappear. All right, and by disappear, I mean you no longer want to see the yellow in the egg. I should have used my glass bowl so you could have seen. All right, so we got that incorporated real well. And then we're going to take a second, we're going to scrape down our bowl. That's what we do. Anytime you use a mixer of any kind, hand mixer or otherwise, if you're using a mixer in a bowl, you will have dead spots where it may not incorporate everything completely. So we want to make sure it's all incorporated, you know, together. You know, now then you don't have like chunks of shortening or chunks of sugar or a hidden egg somewhere, you know, in that. All right, so we got that mixed up and together. So the next thing we need to do, according to the directions, is lick the mix off our hand. Okay, so we're going to take 1 cup, which I'll have to put a thing down here to tell you what the grams are because I don't remember offhand and I didn't write it down because it's a cookbook. 1 cup of cocoa powder. I'm using Dutch processed, and if your cocoa powder is lumpy, make sure you sift it. You don't want it to be, you know, lumpy. It makes it hard to get everything mixed together. And to this, sorry, cocoa all over my hands. To this, we're going to add 1 cup of hot water. All right, now, I mean, it can be your tap water as long as it's hot. But what I did was I made a cup of water, and then I put it in the microwave for 1.5 minutes, and we're going to mix this up together. All right, just like such. And we're going to make a paste. This will be the next thing that goes into our mixer. All right, we got that mixed up, and we literally just got a bowl full of chocolate. It's really kind of nice. Yeah, and you want to make sure you don't have any lumps. Now, this whisk I'm using is absolutely amazing. It's actually an egg beater, but I use it for everything, especially small bowl mixing like this. It's awesome. So we're going to go ahead and dump this in. Put this into our mixer right quick, like such. And just so you know, I could be completely doing this wrong because I'm interpreting the direction, the recipe as I see it. But we'll see. You know, if it doesn't come out right, we will look and see what we did wrong. Right? That's part of the fun of baking, really, is learning, is creating, is getting it wrong. Because I've learned over the last couple of years I've been doing this. Getting it wrong is okay because a lot of the times you get to eat the mistakes. You know, the mistakes still do taste fantastic. All right, so we got that in there, like such, and we'll give this a good. We're just going to incorporate it. You know, get it mixed together. All right, got that. I think incorporated. Grab our spatula here real quick. Give the bowl a good scrape. Make sure we're in good shape here. Yep, see, the center had a dead spot. There was a little bit of white shown in there. Get that scraped. Scrape off my spatula real quick. That in there. Now, the last ingredient for our wet ingredients is a cup of milk, but this is what's called old milk. Do what? Or old sour milk. No, sour milk or old milk. But it is sour milk. This is basically buttermilk. I would assume, based on just watching other people bake over the years, I've never actually had to make sour milk. But I know every recipe that calls for buttermilk, if you don't have buttermilk, you can do this exact same thing. And it is 1 cup of fresh milk. I'm using whole milk. And to this, I added 2 tablespoons of vinegar and then let it sit. And what it does is it turns it into a buttermilk, basically. It sours it. You know, just like if you went to get the milk out of the fridge and smelled it and it was chunky. That's pretty much what we did. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and pour that in there. And then we'll give this a good mix to combine it. All right. Got that combined. Give it a good scrape around right quick. And now right now, like your wet ingredients that we just did up, hey, they're a little runny. That's all right because we're about to put our dry ingredients in there. Matter of fact, that's our very next step. So as I get this spatula cleaned off. Now I will say, I know in cake making, I'm following this recipe, but in every cake I've ever made, although we're not making a cake, we're making whoopie pies. When you do milk like that, you would add your dry ingredients. You would do like a third of your dry, half your milk, third of your dry, half your milk, and then a third of your dry. But as I found out with the red velvet cake, because it didn't really follow the rules either, it's okay, basically. So we're going to take our dry ingredients that we mixed up off camera because I wasn't paying attention, and we are going to do these in 2 parts. So I'm going to put half of it in now and get that mixed. All right, get that mixed. Then we'll take our spatula. Trying not to get chocolate on the cabinet. Give this a good quick stir. Good there. Then we're going to put the other half of our flour in, or dry mix in. Yeah. All right. I just got handed a note by our producer and director. You guys may know her as Chris, my wife. But she says that soured milk that we just made and buttermilk both used to balance the acidity in a recipe. And they also act as a leavening agent. And if you don't know what a leavening agent is per se, a leavening agent is something that helps lift the cake. It'll give it its height, and it'll help it lift. Because if you look at whoopie pies in pictures, they're domed, they just look like little cakes. And all cakes rise. You want them to rise. You don't want a flat cake. That just wouldn't be fun. So we actually essentially have three leaveners in here. Baking powder is a leavener. Baking soda is a leavener. And now we know that soured milk or buttermilk, either one, are leaveners. That in this case they will also help balance the acidity level. Chocolate is slightly acidic. We put vinegar in the milk, 2 tablespoons of vinegar. So we want to balance that. Nobody wants to get a whoopie pie or a cake that tastes like vinegar, by any means. Thank you, boss. I'm telling you, my brain is just, I haven't felt well the last couple of days, and, but, as they say, no rest for the wicked, so to speak. And we've got, there's not really any time to be sick. So, I am marching on at best pace I can. Like I've told my employees over the years, all I ever ask for is 100%. But if all you got is 50% and you can give me 100% of your 50%, that's great. That's all I ask for. So I'm giving you guys 100% of what I got today. We got to do this. I've got, with Father's Day being this Sunday, I had some people order some pies for Father's Day, which I would like to thank them. That's awesome. We've made a red velvet cake for a friend, for her brother, for this week, which is great. We've done all kinds of stuff, this week. For those people who have ordered pies and cakes off of us over the last couple months or so, helping us to achieve our goal of home ownership, thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. All right, let me get this straightened up real quick, and we will get these onto the sheet and talk about how long we're baking for. Got the mixer out of the way. Most things in the sink, so I think we are good to go. Now, the recipe says a tablespoon's worth of batter onto your cookie sheet. The only thing I'm varying from on this is it says to grease your cookie sheet. I'm not going to grease my cookie sheet. I'll use parchment paper. And I could use a tablespoon, but I've got a scoop. A really nice, in my mind, pretty scoop that I use for cookies. It's about a tablespoon and a half, really. So I'm going to put the batter on there, just like it says, in a scoop. And I'm going to leave about 3 inches in between them. Because I don't really know how big these are going to get. And I'm hoping they don't grow into each other. And this is probably going to take a couple cookie sheets worth to do this with. So get that. Alright, got the last one on there. So, here is my thought on this. Okay, so what it comes down to is, A, I need to find something to put this on. That'll work right there. I don't think it truly matters exactly how big they are, as long as they're even. Because remember, you got to cook them all, you got to bake them all at the same time. So we're going to start out with 12. I mean, I know cookie-wise, this particular full-size cookie sheet will hold 15 cookies. But we're going to we'll put 12 on here just to give them room to expand. I've got about 3 inches in between each cookie all the way around. So we should be in good shape. Now, let's talk about what we need to do. Let's talk about time. Because she left it a little broad in the recipe. Normally it's like a couple minute variance, so I'd be like, 5 to 7 minutes. Well, this is 6 to 10 minutes at 350 degrees. So we're going to have to keep an eye on them. So I'm going to go ahead and get this batch in the oven, and when I come back, we'll take a look at what we have made, and we'll I'll let you know exactly how much time it took. So I'll see you here in just a second. All right. Okay, so the timer is getting ready to go off here any second. Right now. Now I did check them at 7 minutes with a toothpick, and they weren't quite ready, so I went ahead and did the full 10 minutes. So we've got, and they are done. They're very soft, but they're done. But here is our pies. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put these out here in the dining room on a cooling rack to cool for 2-3 minutes on the pan, and then I'll take them off the pan and place them on the cooling rack. And judging by the size of those, I think I'm just going to stick with 12 per sheet. Now, some rules with using baking sheets. I didn't know this until I just happened to read it, is when using baking sheets, you don't want to use the same hot one over and over again. Okay, so if you have to use multiple ones, or you have to reuse the same one, let it cool completely before you put your next round on it. Now we have multiple baking sheets. I've got 3 or 4 of them so you can use a cool one every time, because what happens is it'll change the way whatever you're baking bakes, whether it be cookies or in this case whoopie pies, and they can go flat on you. They just get all kinds of weird. So pro tip, I guess, make sure you're using a cool cookie sheet when baking. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get up the rest of these done. I have a feeling this is gonna probably make close to 36 total, which means I'll end up with 72 whoopie pie halves. So when I come back, we'll take a look at them and start making some icing. All right, I'll see you here in just a second. All right, so we got the cake portion of our whoopie pie cooled. They're sitting out there in the dining room. So now we're going to make the filling that goes in. Okay, down here at the counter. So this is going to require at least a couple different bowls, even if you're using a hand mixer. So we'll go ahead and get started. And for the first part, I'm going to use my paddle attachment with. And we're going to take 1 cup of Crisco, which is 175 grams. And we're going to put it in here. As soon as I get a spatula, get that out of there with. So the reason why we need a couple different bowls is, remember those 2 egg whites I told you not to get rid of earlier? We're going to need the other bowl to whip those. To this 1 cup, 175 grams of Crisco, or shortening, whichever you like, I'm going to add a half a cup, 113 grams, 1 stick of butter. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cream this up so it's nice and creamy. Alright, we are nice and creamy. We are creamed. Actually, we're probably overly creamed in some aspects. That's alright. Never actually creamed Crisco or shortening and butter in a mixer before, I don't think. And it does make it creamy. Alright, so to this, after I scrape down the bowl, we're just going to take 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar, which I have 4.5 cups here of powdered sugar. So I'll just take 2 tablespoons of it right quick, and I'm going to incorporate it into this. Alright, so we got that in there. Now what we're going to do is, I'm going to set that off to the side, is we're going to take, why the directions are written this way, I'm not real sure, but it's okay. We're going to follow them anyhow. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add 4.5 cups of powdered sugar into this. That 4.5 cups total is, 540 grams. All right, 120 grams a cup, 540 grams. But we took 2 tablespoons of it already and put it in there. Like I said, I'm not sure why the directions are written that way, but they are. And so that's what we do. And then I'm going to add a heavy cup at a time, and we're going to mix that in. All right. Got 1 cup in there, just like that. Now, when mixing with powdered sugar, much like flour, start on low. If you don't, you will have an entire kitchen full of powdered sugar. All over your walls, yourself, your countertop. It's a mess. Don't ask me how I know. Alright, so we got that mixed up. And we're going to go ahead and get this bowl out of here. I tell you what, this looks like an amazing frosting. I don't know if you can really see it and does it justice. But we are well on our way to making a good solid cream for our whoopie pies. And I can tell you, just because I got it on my fingers, it tastes wonderful. Which is awesome. So we'll go ahead and get this scraped up real quick. Because we're done with the paddle attachment. Now, if you're using a hand mixer, of course you wouldn't change attachments. You just keep using your mixer, but you would want to clean your blades off because we're about to make basically a meringue next. And then what we'll do is we'll incorporate the two together to do that. So we got that all good to go there, and we're just going to set that off to the side and bring out the other bowl. The glass bowl's nice. It's just a little big, I think, but it works. So I'll go ahead and put my whisk attachment on. We're going to grab those 2 egg whites that we saved from earlier and put them in there. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned it throughout this entire video, but all your dairy, your eggs, things like that, so any butter we've used, milks, egg whites, eggs, they should all be at room temperature. And what we're going to do is we're going to start whisking these to basically form a meringue that looks like whipped cream. And when we get it, start to see bubbles, you know, or it starts to get what they call soft peaks, we're going to add our milk and our flour, which I'll give you the sizes of those when we're going to put them in. Okay, so we're down to where we're starting to get soft peaks. It's bubbly and airy. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add in 2 teaspoons, 8 grams of vanilla or flour, all-purpose flour. Get that mixed up in there. We're going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla, which is 4 grams. And we're going to add 4 tablespoons, 60 milliliters, 60 grams of just regular, I'm using whole milk. You could probably get away with 2%, but I wouldn't. And I did not turn my mixer off as I'm putting this in there. You just want to pour it in slow. Now I'm going to put it on high and we're going to whip this into a cream. Alright. So, we got that mixed. Now, I did learn something while I was letting this mix. Because I lost my stiff peaks. You know, and it turned into a liquid. And that's what's supposed to happen. Talking to the utmost authority I have, my wife, I learned that it's not supposed to, it's got air, it's incorporated, but because of, and I don't know why I didn't think about this, but because of the milk that you add to it, it loses its peaks, which is okay, because we're going to put this in with the batter we've already made, or the frosting we already made. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take some of this, because this is so dense, but I mean, I don't know if you can see it there or not, but see how it's nice and frothy? It's got lots of air in it. We don't exactly want to lose that air. So we're going to pour just a little bit of it in there, like such, and we're gonna loosen this up with that. We're just gonna fold it in. Okay? Okay, we got that folded in. So now what we'll do is I will hunt down one of my little spatulas here and scrape this off. And then we're going to return it back to the mixer. Now that we've got this, because we don't want to lose all that air we've just incorporated. At least that's what my thought process is behind it. I could be completely wrong. Like I said, I've never made this before, so I don't really know where we're headed to with this. But I do know. All right, there we go. That. We'll put our paddle attachment back on there. So I guess I could have just done that with the paddle attachment, but you still want to do it separately. It even reads that way in the directions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this on low, which, yeah, and I didn't realize this. I've had this KitchenAid mixer now for a couple years. Never realized that the first setting is stir. And we're just going to slowly pour this in so we can get that mix in there. And then we are going to mix this until it is light and fluffy, is what the directions say. All right, we are light and fluffy. Amazingly light and fluffy. It looks just phenomenal. Go ahead and get this off of here. Give you a look. So that way we can see what we've accomplished. So far, this recipe has turned out very well. This is actually the second recipe of my mother-in-law's that I've used. Like I said earlier, the red velvet cake that we had, that I had made, was hers also. And I know some of you may be saying, it's got an awful lot of shortening in it. Well, I mean, back in the day, like way back before my day, you know, butter was kind of pricey and shortening was kind of cheap. And you did with what you could. You know, that's like, you know, it runs right back here with like the chocolate mayo cake that I made a long while back. And you know, I've got a recipe for a tomato soup chocolate cake because it involves tomato soup. Everything wasn't ready available like it is now. And I mean, those were Depression era style cakes, but you know, shortening was very popular. You know, it was a way to go. But right there is our topping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this all cleaned up, get a couple of the whoopie pies over here, the cakes for them over here, so I can show you how we're going to make them. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, got the mixer all put away. Life is good again. So now all we got left to do, I went ahead and I filled my piping bag up with the icing, and then I went through and matched up 2 of the cookies. That way I knew that we were at least close, because not having a mold or anything, some of them are bigger than others, which we found out today that there is a mold out there that you can use. It looks like a cupcake pan. But all we're going to do is we're just going to simply put the icing on it like such. Flip the lid on it. Then give it a little squeeze down, just like such. And then we have our whoopie pie. All right, I'll show you one more time. Just simply we've matched up our top and our bottom, so they're about the same size. Put that in there. Then we're going to take our filling, put it on like such, and then just squeeze it on through, just like that. Give her a press down. And then we will have a whoopie pie. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get the other 22 done up, and when I come back, we'll give one a try. Okay, so got them all done. There we are. I think they look very cool. I ended up getting 23 of them, which is good. That means she's going to get at least 20 of them, possibly 22, depending on how
the backyard.
How well I hide these from the kids. But we're about to eat one right now. Just don't tell her, and she'll never know. All right, so let's bring you up here so we can see what's going on. My kitchen at the moment is a colossal undertaking of a mess. I got stuff everywhere. Oh, one of the tragedies of a small kitchen. But that's all right. So I'm gonna take the one that's uneven. As you can see, I got one. I ended up with one cookie big and one cookie a little smaller, but all the other ones matched up nicely. So let's give this whoopie pie a try and see if I go whoopie. That's really good. I don't even think I've ever had a homemade whoopie pie before. I've had store-bought, but that filling is so light and yet sturdy, which is crazy. Most sturdy fillings are dense. This is not. It's very light. It's dare I say, amazingly good. Yeah. And the chocolate is incredible. You guys need to give this recipe a try. I think I made it way more harder than it is. I hope it doesn't come across that way on camera, because they're not hard to make. You're basically making a cake, dolloping it onto a pan, cooking them 10 minutes at a time, 6 to 10 minutes, it'll depend on your oven, and making a wonderful whipped cream to put in between them, and making an incredibly unhealthy sandwich that tastes oh so delicious. So, that being said, sorry, I just can't quit eating that bad boy. It's good. Give this recipe a try. These are awesome little whoopie pies. Definitely a whoopie. Yes.
Molly.
She's in there. Give these a try. Let me know if you do. I guarantee you won't be disappointed. And this is enough here. You can share with the neighbors. Make some friends. You know, have a conversation. Have these with a cup of coffee. That'd be awesome. So, next week, as always, I have no clue what we're cooking for dinner. I have an idea. I really want to do this crab with glass noodle recipe that comes from Thailand? No, Korea. And, sorry, I just realized I had cream on my mustache. And dessert, I really think we're going to do a blueberry cheesecake to continue the process of building that ultimate 3-layer blueberry cake I want to make. So, I love you. I love you very much. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. If you stayed to the end of this video, you're the bomb. Tell somebody else you love them, and you love them very much. Hand out a couple of these whoopie pies. Great conversation starter, and you'll be making friends. All right, till next week. I love you, and I'll see you then. Bye.